Hello everybody, this is Cheryl Abram and this is my Ypifany channel. Today I'm going to go over a presentation that I just recently did called Time for a Reality Check. It's about reality pedagogy and getting back to the good. Now I did this for it was a virtual conference, a virtual training conference called the Honey Badgers, and it was very good, at least, in my opinion. It went really well. So I just want to go through this. I won't take as long as I did with the group. I'll go through this a little bit faster than I did online. So all right, so let's get to it. Yeah, this is just the intro. You all know much of this about me already. My personal value statement, enlightening mind so that everyone can see. My favorite book is The Hobbit. I love The Hobbit. I've read it several times and I've seen the movie several times. I really, really like it. And the thing I'm most proud of is my first book. My first book is Firing God. It took a lot of courage for me to even write that title, much less write the book. So that's the thing that I'm most proud of. Now, the thing I started out with was talking about the problems that I've experienced in my own job and in learning and development and evaluation. So this is just a list of problems, recurring problems that we've had in my previous job over the years that I was there. Much of this will be familiar to you no matter where you are, unless you're in an organization that's not bureaucratic or hierarchical, right? But if you are, you will probably realize or be familiar with and have experienced a lot of these things. For example, evidence of learning transfer, lack of support for learning and development programs, and the inability of learning and development to really be able to understand what's going on in the business and therefore influencing organizational decisions and priorities. Now we have to change, okay? So there's a lot of stuff that's going on out there in the world, and it's not enough for us to go to ATD conferences and find out about the shiny new thing, or or hear the speakers speak about what they speak about. We applaud them and then go back to what we're doing, okay? There's a lot of stuff going on out there in learning and evaluation. So blockchain is something that is peer supported. It gets rid of the middleman, right? And we're seeing that a lot in Uber too, right? You have these peer-to-peer things popping up all over the place. YouTube, so much can be done with YouTube. So much is being done with YouTube. A lot of learning occurs. I use YouTube a lot for just-in-time learning. And Everyone Culture, if you haven't read this book, please pick it up. Also, Reinventing Organizations. Both of these books do a really good job of talking about how the landscape of learning and work are changing. Learning and work, okay? Not just work, not just the future of work. There's also the future of learning. All of that stuff is changing and has changed, okay? But for some reason, we're having a hard time catching up. When I say we, I mean those of us in the learning and development organization field who work in hierarchical and bureaucratic type organizations. So this is the way that I try to explain, okay? So all those problems that I listed before, lack of leadership support, transfer, all that, those are problems like on the left side of the screen. Those are, if you have a Nokia phone on the left, like one of the first 5 or 6 on the left, transfer is a problem for you. And that's a problem that you want to solve, okay? You want to take this Nokia somewhere and say, listen, transfer is a problem. Can you please help me solve this? If anybody out there still is able to fix that problem, then you can fix it. You can worry about that problem. You can continue trying to solve it. You can spend money on bringing in contractors to help you solve the transfer problem. You can do all that. Or you can evolve the problem. I would rather have a problem like the phones on the right. I'd rather have a problem with Bluetooth. Okay, if I'm going to have a problem at all, let it be an evolved one. I told how I look at the housewives, right? And these women, they fight about stuff like who's going to plan the next trip to Hawaii. Can I have that problem? I would like that. Hello, that's an evolved problem. That's what I'm talking about here. So for learning, our evolved problem, our argument about whether or not we want to go to Hawaii is knowledge failure. The problem is knowledge failure, the absence of required action when knowledge is unknown, known but not used, underutilized, misapplied, or not available when or where needed. With this, now this problem happens throughout the organization. It doesn't just happen with employees. It doesn't just happen when, employee performance is low, or when you get a new system, or, or when people need coaching or whatever. It happens from the rooter to the tutor, okay? From the executives at the very top in the hierarchy, across and down. Knowledge failure or action that is required does not occur for one or more of these reasons, which means we have to be involved. We have to know what is going on in the organization. We have to be aligned with and partners with and collaborators with everyone in the organization, because now we're all working together. Very clearly, we're all working together to help accomplish the goals and the mission of the organization. Now, this requires, Simon Sinek talks a lot about the why. He has a book called Start from Why, or Start at Why, something like that. So that's where we need to start, okay? Or that's where I started when I first began looking at this. Why do we train people? Why do we even have learning, development, and evaluation? For what reason in organizations? Well, I found two main ones: to support and validate the veracity of management decisions and control. So what we're saying is, listen, management, listen, whoever's at the top, those of you making the strategic plan and the goals and stuff, you're right. So what I'm here to do is to help people validate your rightness by helping them to be sure they have the competence and the skills and leadership skills and all that stuff to get what you said done, to get that done. I'm not questioning your goals. I'm not questioning the mission. I'm not questioning any of that, because it's right. I'm not saying that blatantly, but the why behind why we're there is for that reason, to support and validate those decisions, okay? Another one is to diminish present and future gaps between the controls, right? And the controls are the policies and procedures and all of the stuff that's in place to be sure we stay within the boundaries. Just if you think of a maze, right? And the various boundaries that have you going left or right or going straight or whatever, okay? Now, the evolved why, when we think of knowledge failure, the evolved why of learning, development, and evaluation are these that I have listed here. Risk response to the potential for knowledge failure. And again, knowledge failure happens at every part of the organization. So it's a risk response. We're there to help mitigate the risk of knowledge failure, which requires a knowledge risk assessment. But I'm going to talk about that in something else. To prevent the gap between what is expected and what is accomplished, to promote resilience and continued business performance in the inevitable event of disruption, because it's going to happen, right? Knowledge failure is possible everywhere. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on, right? So we're there to promote resilience of the organization with the things that we design for people, all right? And we're there to acknowledge and make use of the instrumental value of knowledge assets. Knowledge lies within people. Okay, so we acknowledge the reality that people are assets. Now, people say that all the time. Leaders say that all the time. But that's not true. Like, that is not the way. If it were true, things would run a whole lot differently. Let me tell you, for example, when I went to a knowledge risk, no, it wasn't knowledge risk. It was a risk assessment class, right? It was a whole bunch of financial people in there. I was the anomaly, I was the person that didn't belong, right? But in that class, I learned that organizations have something called an MD&A, right? Where they talk about, it's basically they're telling Congress that, yeah, you appropriated us money, and, we have an auditor in here, and he's saying that we did what we were supposed to do with that, right? And then, and other businesses have it too, not just the federal government. But what I found out was that there's a difference between assets and what do they call us? What do they call employees? Oh my God, I forget what they call them. I don't know, I forget. But the people at the top of the organization are the assets, right? The leaders are the assets. And the anyone who is not a leader is an employee. I forget what they call it though. What the heck is it? I don't know. I'll think about it. So, because what happens is for us, for employees or those who are not leaders or don't consider ourselves leaders or don't have that title of leader, we're easily replaceable. Resources, that's it. You have assets and you have resources. Okay. Now, what we do here for this why, we admit and we see that everyone in the organization is an asset. Okay, so we use that collective intelligence in the organization when we look to design learning experiences and to create environments such that learning occurs or can occur safely. Okay, I need to go through this a little faster. I'm not going to play this video, but watch it. It's called the Still Face Experiment on YouTube. Getting back to the good. Now, very quickly, this video is just about this doctor did an experiment. Dr. Edward Tronick did an experiment where this mother and her baby, they were interacting with each other. You know, the baby was cooing and laughing, and the mom was, you know how moms do, holding her hand and smiling and, you know, baby talk. So the doctor told the mom, turn away, and when you turn back, I want you to turn back with a still face. Don't react to anything the baby does. So that's what she did. And when she did that, you'll see in the video that the baby became very agitated. I got agitated just looking at it. I'm like, oh my God, can you get your child? You know, the baby was crying and she started to scream and look away and she was just upset, you know, and the interesting thing is mom is still there. Mom didn't go anywhere. Mom just stopped responding in the way she normally did. So I use this video to talk about how we in the learning and development field, we have to get back to the good, because the way the doctor explained it was that, you know, what happens in life is that, you know, something bad happens to us, okay? But we're able to recover and get back to the good, okay? So when the mom started playing with the baby again, the baby was able to recover and get back to that place where she was, back to the good, you know? But sometimes you get in that bad place and there's no reparation. There's no recovery, you know, and now we have to find a way to get back to the good. So in that video, we, the learning development and evaluation community, we are the mother in that example, right? The business, the organization, they are looking for a response, but they're not getting it, right? So, and that's evident in that, you know, there's no leadership support, transfer is awful, you know, we're not included in business decisions. I mean, all of that, right? So they have to go somewhere else. They have to find another way to get back to the good because the learning environment isn't helping them to do that, you know? So we first have to get back to the good, okay? And we do that with empathy, okay? Now, Christopher Emdin is an amazing person. I never met him, but I read a lot about him and I follow him on Facebook. But he created something called reality pedagogy, where he uses hip-hop education or principles of hip-hop to teach his students. He's a professor, I think it's at Columbia University. But he has a website. Please go to it so you can see all of the wonderful things that he's doing. But I really love his idea of using principles of hip-hop. So when you say hip-hop, people just think they go right to rap, you know, and cussing and chains and you know, women barely clothed and all that. That's not hip hop. Okay, so rap is a part of hip hop culture and education, but so is b-boying. B-boying is like movement, breakdancing, you know, having space. Graffiti is part of hip hop culture, where you're allowed to write and share and discuss and create various things. DJing is also part of hip hop culture, and that's manipulation of things. That's play. That's being able to deconstruct and reconstruct and construct various things, okay? And finally, knowledge of self is part of hip hop culture. So with that, with Christopher's help and the work that he's already done on reality pedagogy, Our reality, so getting back to the good means getting back to reality. That's what that means, getting back to reality. And what's reality made of? I'm not getting philosophical here or anything, but just, using some of the principles that Christopher was talking about: space, movement, choices, play, and senses, or self. Like you are made of senses, right? So that's what that is. So we really want to do what we can to get back to reality when it comes to where, not just what we're designing, but where we're designing it. What kind of space are we in to design this? So my journey to get back to reality, I didn't know that this is what I was doing at the time, but I had to ask a significant question. Is evaluation necessary? And that question even turned into, what is evaluation? Okay? Which is a crazy question for me to ask, because that's what I love, that's what I do, that's what I research, that's what I write about, all of that. It's almost like a doctor asking, is medicine necessary? Or what is medicine? That just sounds crazy, okay? But in order to get back to the good, I had to ask a significant question like this, a question that couldn't be asked, Dave Gray is someone that I've discovered. He wrote the book Liminal Thinking. I don't think it's on Amazon. You have to go to his website to get it if you want to get it. But he talks about reality as well. And I love this picture here. So I did what's in the red. Okay, Dave did all this other drawing. But I love how he has, so reality and experience are right at the bottom. That's where we want to be designing. That's where we want to be designing. Okay. Now, all of us sit on top of theories, judgments, and belief. And because of that, you see how he has clash? That's where the arguments are. Okay? Theories, judgments, and belief. Nobody's arguing in reality. Nobody. Nobody's arguing. It's all on theories, judgments, and our varied beliefs. So in reality, space, choices, movement, place, senses. These are materials for designing our learning events. And the belief, so what happens is we all sit on top of beliefs, judgments, and theories because it's beneficial, right? We get something out of that. We wouldn't do it if we did not get something out of it, okay? So you can experience this. It's called consensual hallucination. And I found this term when I went into the cyber world to look for stuff that was going on, okay, when I was doing research and getting out of learning and development and going into different fields. Consensual hallucination happens when you go to the movies, for example. I loved Game of Thrones until the last 3 episodes, okay, well, last 2 episodes. But there are dragons, people coming back from the dead, fire is going on, and all this stuff happening in Game of Thrones that was clearly not true, okay? But I wanted to enjoy it. I wanted to cry with people. I wanted to be upset. I wanted to be, jump in my chair when I was scared. I wanted to talk about it with other people with a lot of emotion and stuff, In order for me to do any of that, to get any enjoyment at all out of Game of Thrones, I had to give myself explicit permission to suspend my critical thinking. That's called consensual hallucination. Okay? That's what we have to do if we want to be able to enjoy movies, to enjoy relationships that we're in, possibly. I ain't trying to get in nobody's business, but I'm just saying, you see what's obvious, but you act like you don't, right? Okay. So that's what I'm talking about, consensual hallucination. Designing with reality, we have to go below the surface. We have to get below the beliefs and judgments and theories, and that's very easy to do. Well, it's not very easy to do, but you can if you want to, and you simply do it by questions. Okay? Because the needs of our fundamental needs are things like freedom, meaning, currency, power, survival, belonging, right? Those are the fundamental things that we want. At the end of the day, I don't care what your objectives are for the training or whatever, it don't matter. Fundamentally, what we're looking for are these things. We want freedom to learn and to grow. We want to have meaning. We want to create meaning. We want currency because currency helps us move. I'm not just talking about money here, right? We want currency to help. We want power, which means we want decision-making authority, Like we actually want to make decisions because that's where our power is, because we can change, right? Survival, belonging. So things like that, okay? So getting below the beliefs, judgments, and theories, and designing our programs and experiences and environments and, in reality. Okay, I'm going to speed it up because I don't want this to take forever. This is the traditional learning journey. Many of us, well, all of us are probably familiar with this. This is typically how it works. I went into the field of biomimicry. Getting back to reality, biomimicry is one of the most fascinating fields you can go into. I love it, because it has a whole bunch of stuff to do with nature. So you have the definition right there. Biophilia is also related to biomimicry, because biophilia, you'll see a lot of biophilia in real estate, where people, where the design, you're sure to design nature into the thing, right? You have like real wooden tables that show the grain and all that, right? You have open spaces, you have sunlight, natural light coming in through the windows. That's biophilia, because it takes into consideration our humans' need to be in nature, to experience nature, okay? This is another video about the daughter vine. I'm not going to show this one either, but you can go to YouTube and just type in the daughter vine, and this will come up. It's only 2 minutes. The whole thing is called What Plants Talk About. That's a really, really good documentary. But in this video, the daughter vine is choosing. It's choosing between a tomato plant and a different plant. And 9 times out of 10, the daughter, like in this picture, chooses the tomato plant. Why? Because the tomato plant is conducive to its survival. It's going to get the most nutrients, the most whatever it needs from the tomato plant. That's why. Oh, that's what we think. That's what they think is why it chooses the tomato plant. Now, how it does that, you're going to have to watch the video and listen to all that stuff, right? But one of the things, when I first saw this, one of the things that popped into my mind that was, for some reason, I'd never thought of before, was that it does not require a human mind to make decisions. Okay? We think we're the only ones who can do anything. Okay, but that is, when you go into biomimicry and you really go into things like, you realize that is totally not true. That is absolutely not true. Oh, I didn't want to play it. Hold on. Let me close it. All right. This brings me to total behavior. So total behavior is part of choice theory. Okay, and there's also part of the doctor who created this, Dr. William Glasser, also created reality therapy. Okay. I love total behavior because when I first started researching this and reading about total behavior, my mind went directly to the questions and the evidence that we look for once training is over. Okay, because we go right to almost immediately to acting. Like, what are you doing? What did you do? Did you do anything different? Which are good questions. Like, we want to know that, but we also want to know what else is happening. Okay, because choice theory says that all behavior is either consciously or unconsciously chosen, and a major premise is that people are responsible for their own choices, decisions, goals. You can put learning there, and general degree of happiness in their lives. Okay, people are responsible for their own learning as well. So you can look at this thing. So it basically says that, behavior is made of 4 things: thinking, feeling, physiology, and acting. So if I'm doing something differently or not, then all these other things are aligning with what I'm doing. If I'm thinking something, then all these things are aligning with what I'm thinking, which is why it's really important for us in our learning design to embed evidence of thinking. Like, what can we do to see what people are thinking? As is it just having them work through something and talking through it so that they even see what they're thinking? Lego serious play is something that's really good to use for this. Also, just something as simple as drawing on a piece of paper. What is the name of that book? I forget the name of that book, but there's a method called the Penny Baker writing method. I've actually done that a couple times. It's really, really good, but it's all about just writing. Like, whatever you're thinking about, just writing, and you do it for 20 minutes solid. Even if you run out of stuff, you just keep writing, and it's interesting. It's very, very interesting. But Finding evidence of how people feel at a certain time. And that's feeling and physiologically. Okay, asking those type of questions, making those type of observations. Okay. So one thing I've done, and I've said this in many previous presentations, is that I've redefined learning. Learning for me is the same as empathy, the sharing of perspective and experience. In what I do, in the way I now operate, this is what learning is, and I approach it this way in everything I do. Learning is also work. Work is physical and mental energy used to produce something. Look it up. That's the definition of work. Guess what? It's also the definition of learning. Okay? So learning is synonymous with empathy. And empathy is work. It's not just sitting back looking at something on TV saying, oh, that's so sad. And it's not walking in somebody else's shoes. That's not what it is either. They're in their shoes. It's walking in yours, but in different circumstances. Okay? So learning's primary functions are to promote freedom, meaning, and currency. Now listen, this is just me. This is me, the research I've done, the projects that I've been working on, the results that I've seen, the feedback that I've gotten, the way that I've interpreted things. This is me. Okay, this is just me sharing. Y'all ain't gotta do nothing regarding this or whatever. It's sharing. I'm sharing perspective of the way that I see these things. Okay, so for me, learning's function is to promote freedom, meaning, and currency. So everything I do, everything that I'm doing now with these curricula that I'm participating in creating, this is learning's function, to promote freedom, meaning, and currency. It doesn't matter what the topic is. It doesn't matter. So designing with reality, accountability, and responsibility. This plays closely in the fact that learners are responsible for their own learning. Stop trying to take it away. Stop. That's what we do. We want to be responsible for people's learning. How can you do that? Like how? That's not even possible. We're responsible for the facilitation, for the teaching, for the talking, for the showing PowerPoint slides. We're responsible for passing out paper. We're responsible for answering questions, for directing people to read something, for all that. But none of that is learning. Okay? We are not responsible for their learning. They are. So that's something that it's hard to even think about when you feel like you're the expert and people have to listen to you in order to live a better life or something, or do a better job at work, which is not so at all. And choice theory also talks about various filters that information, and not just information you hear. Think about all the senses. You're getting information through all the senses. That's something else we have to think about when we design learning. How are we engaging all the senses? How are we engaging taste? I don't care if the learning is on leadership in Australia or whatever. Or leadership in horrible organizations. How are you engaging the sense of taste in that? How can you think to engage that? How are you engaging the sense of smell? How else are you engaging the sense of hearing instead of people just hearing what's coming out of your mouth or whomever? Are you playing music? Are you playing animal sounds or whatever? We really have to think more about this because we've gotten we've gotten way away from the good when it comes to designing in reality, and using all the senses. And we don't have to create anything. Everything is already there in reality. You don't have to make anything. It's just a matter of adding certain constraints in various places to shape it in a different way to help promote freedom, meaning, and currency. That's all that is. So I went through this process, which is a combination of biomimicry and, oh my goodness, what's the name? What is it called again? Y'all know what I'm talking about. But it's a combination of biomimicry in this design process. Human-centered design, that's what it is. So I talked about, evaluation, how I went through all of these steps, even as far as walking in the forest, asking myself, how does nature evaluate? Like, what is evaluation in nature? And like seriously looking, I felt silly at first, but seriously looking in nature, looking at trees, at the ground, at animals, at the water and all that to try to find, how does nature evaluate? Like, what does that mean in nature? Okay. And the prototype that I came up with is this, my evaluation design for optimized learning and results. And I'm going to fly through the rest of this because this is on my LinkedIn page. You can read it in more detail and stuff, but I'm also putting these slides in my portfolio so you can just go grab them, and do whatever. So understand interconnections, that's the first step. Engage with multiple perspectives. This is a stakeholder analysis that was done, that I did. Frame boundaries. This is what happens after the analysis. Then you create criteria and you build evidence. But we have to make sure that evidence is strong. Okay, so this is a very simple rubric that I made for a program. And in here you would just have what kinds of evidence are you going to collect and what's the strength of. Now the strength of the evidence, it's called now this is from, from Enterprise Risk Management. 5 decision-making factors. That's facts, beliefs, feelings, opinions, and assumptions. We all use facts, beliefs, feelings, opinions, and assumptions when we make decisions. All of us use that. What ERM, Enterprise Risk Management, says is what you want to do is have a good mix of those things. You don't want to rely all on assumptions to make a decision. Okay? You can absolutely do that, and we probably do that on a daily basis, Not probably, we do make decisions based on feelings and opinions and stuff like that, right? But in the workplace, or not even outside the workplace, we want to try to have a good mix of all of those, where it makes sense, before we make a decision. I love Sarah Vaca. I was able to speak with her a little bit to come into my organization to do a presentation. She wasn't able to do it. There was technical difficulties or something like that. But go to her website, sarahvaca.com. This woman is a genius when it comes to visual representation of anything having to do with evaluation. Okay, I'm telling you, she is an absolute genius. Her mind must be really colorful and just amazing. So this is one of my favorites, her periodic table of evaluation. And if you look at the purple, the dark purple, these are all the evaluation approaches. One thing that I have been really trying to advocate is to stop being led to evaluate by one model. You can't look at that model and say, okay, this is how we're going to evaluate. You can't do that. The program has to tell you how it wants to be evaluated. And on the other end, you have so many evaluation options, so many ways to ask questions, so many ways to gather data, so many ways to report that out, so many ways to involve people, so many ways to draw boundaries. I mean, look at this. There are so many evaluation methods, but we in learning and development know nothing but one or two, okay? And I would love to see ATD do something to bring in more of these methods, which is something that I tried to do with my team with FedEvalueCon, right? Have other people come in, not just training, okay? Data needs to be collected in all parts of the organization. How are you all collecting your data? What method are you using to do that? We need to be talking about and sharing those kinds of things with each other. Okay? The power of moments is, I love reading, y'all. So I'm a reader. So there are readers and there are people who read. I'm a reader, okay? And I can't even tell you how many books I read. This is one of my favorites, The Power of Moments by Chip and Dan Heath. And they talk about creating moments in things that you do. Okay, so when we think about our learning design, what kind of moments are we engineering? What kind of moments are we creating the environment? Because you can't make it happen, but you can absolutely help create an environment in which it can, and is most likely to happen. Right? Moments of elevation and insight and pride. And, so you can even Google the power of moments and you can get the definition of some of these things. Moments of freedom, moments of power. People want moments of competence. People find a lot of meaning where we're competent. Okay? Even moments of error. You want to create moments of developmental error. Moments when people fail, because that's a good incentive to want to learn more and do better and find out, okay, what do I not know? How did this knowledge failure occur? Now I want to find out how, what I need to know or do or say or experience so that this does not happen again. So these are the questions. Again, I'm not telling anybody to do anything, to think differently, none of that stuff. I am just sharing a perspective here. And these are some of the questions. When you think about your design, is the design life friendly? Does it follow nature's unifying patterns? Does it use space, choices, movement, play, and senses? Is it an allegiance to reality? Does it promote freedom, meaning, and currency? And what did you experience? These are the questions that I ask as I put my curricula together. I'm working with a partner on 2 of them right now, and this is literally what we're asking. And where is it? Where is this? Where is it life friendly? Where is it following nature's unifying patterns? Where is it doing those things? Summary questions. These are all rhetorical. Why do you do? You can answer them, but why do you do what you do? Also, what would nature do when it comes to whatever you're creating right now, whatever you're designing, whatever you're evaluating right now? What would nature do? And can you evolve the problem? Are you having issues right now in your learning design, in getting clients, maybe, in, convincing someone of something? This is a question that I'm asking myself right now, actually. Can you evolve the problem? And how can you get back to the good? How can we get back to reality? And that's it. This is me. This is the end of my presentation. I think it took me like an hour. I'm not even looking at the time for this one, so I don't know how long this one took me. But so you can connect CherylAbram.com. You can email me, ask questions about this. Again, it's going to be on my portfolio. I'll put the link to my portfolio at the bottom of this video. LinkedIn, you can connect there. Subscribe to my Ypifany YouTube channel, which is where this is, and which is where I talk about various things like this. Like, I love talking about this stuff. And so you can come to Ypifany, subscribe, and I will be uploading things very regularly, so that we can chat and discuss about what's going on in the world of learning and how we can decolonize thinking around what learning, design, evaluation, and evaluation is. All right. Thank you all for listening. I'll see you soon.